and the things they basically had to do in order to survive during the first like 150 years of trying to figure out, you know, what the outside world that was actually like. And like I said, like 80% of adventurers die.
We're focusing on the sentence and making sure you have amazing sentences throughout your book. And before we get started, I just want to say the last tip is really important because it changes how you view the first 7 tips.
Ooh, I love that kind of shit.
But let's start with number 1, the danger of bad syntax. What is syntax? Syntax is just the order of words in your sentence. And if you want to know why syntax is important, just listen to Yoda.
Much to learn. You still have.
The reason why Yoda sounds so different than everyone else is simply because the order of words is mixed.
Well, no, it's not like that. They're materially prosperous, but they're contending with the ever-expanding scope of human desire. Well, I mean, it's not like they didn't have equipment or anything like that. They just didn't have, like, everything they had was made out of the crystal of the tree. So that almost gave it, like, even more potency than most of, like, the normal gear. Like, there's going to be, like embedding, where it's like you have, like, pieces of the tree embedded into certain parts of the gear at, like, vital points. So if you're ever injured at a vital point, it's like you can have the power of the tree in order to kind of try to, like, as, like, a last lifeline. It's kind of like my idea of, like, having a phoenix down. Kind of, like, hidden in your armor. But that's still really interesting, Levi.
Next up, take a look at this example. My dog bit my sister. Change up the order of words a little bit. My sister bit my dog. Very different meaning, isn't it? Now, it's very easy not to make a mistake like that, but we're going to be looking at a lot of mistakes that a lot of writers do make. Take a look at this sentence and see if you can figure out what's wrong with it. Rachel saw the fight as she was looking out the window. Now, probably most of you are like, well, that's not a terrible sentence. It's a pretty
My sister was bitten by
sentence.
my
I can
dog.
tell what's going on. It doesn't seem like there's a huge mistake. But there is. That is actually a terrible, 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 terrible sentence. Like embarrassingly bad, because the sentence is not doing what the author wants it to be doing. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to change the syntax. I'm going to change the order of words in the sentence, not change any words. And the sentence is going to be magnificently better. As she was looking out the window, Rachel saw the fight. So what is the most important word in this sentence? It's fight. Right? But the first example hides that word in the middle of the sentence as if it's not important at all and focuses the end of the sentence on, oh, she's just looking out the window, which is the least important information in the whole sentence. For the revision, what it does is it sets up anticipation as she was looking out the window and the reader's like, what? What? I want to know what? And then drops the bombshell at the end of the sentence. Rachel saw the fight. So the story ends on the most important information, which makes the reader anticipate the next sentence. So in this case, the better syntax structure slowly builds the sentence and then ends in a climax, kind of like your whole plot in miniature. Now, I talk about this a lot more in my sentence course, including how to use the 2-3-1 principle for ordering your sentences. I'll put a link to that in the description below in case you want to check it out. For now,
maybe
we're
we can
going
check
to
that out
move
tomorrow.
on to
Boom, we have more
number
content,
2,
guys.
all out of proportion. Take a look at these 2 examples of a man picking up kindling to start a fire. You always have 2 choices in your book. You have a choice to expand a section and give a lot of details and sort of a blow-by-blow account of what happened, or you have the choice to summarize everything, move through it really quickly, and just move on to the next part of the story. Now, let me be very clear here. There is not a right answer. I'm not telling you always choose the shorter version. I'm not telling you always choose the longer version. It really depends upon your style. Like, how do you normally...
YouTube boxing match. This guy versus blonde story twink. Hey, I move fast, okay? And I got, like, insane amount of stamina, okay? As long as I parry every attack, I never get hit, and I just tire him out, I only have a 99% chance of losing.
Right? And it also depends on where you are in the book. But what I'd like to do is offer you 3 questions that will help you determine the proper proportion for different sections of your book. The first question you should ask yourself is it interesting? Now, I don't find a guy picking up a whole bunch of kindling for firewood particularly fascinating part of your story, but if there's
I think he means hello, future me. Oh, I see what you mean. But does he have abs? Him versus hello, future me. That would be fun.
Something
All right.
he notices out there, or if there's some sort of tension, or if there's some sort of metaphor. Okay, like you could make it interesting theoretically, but if there's not something super interesting, then maybe you just want to summarize it in a single sentence rather than wasting a whole paragraph on it. Second question you need to ask yourself is whether you need slower pacing or faster pacing. Say you just came from a scene with like tons and tons of action. In that case, you actually need some contrast and you want to slow down the pace, so you'd want to include some details of him just walking around and getting some kindling. That's what you need at that point in the story. On the other hand, what if the chapter before has been a little slow, you don't have a lot of action? In that case, you need to speed things up a little bit because we want to get to something that's going to hook the reader. And the third question you want to ask when thinking about proportion is, if I don't spend time on these details, then where else in the book can I allot that time? For instance, you might realize that if I don't spend a paragraph on this kindling scene, then I can spend a paragraph more on a fight scene or a chase scene or a scene where two characters are falling in love. Now it's time for the next way to interrogate your sentences. Let's look at number 3, overdosing on prepositional phrases. I see a lot of chatter online where it's like, adverbs are the devil, never use adverbs. And I'm like, well, I mean, there's some truth to that. There's times you definitely want to use adverbs, but I'm gonna pick on prepositional phrases because they don't get talked about as much, but I think they can weaken your prose to a huge degree. And let's look at some examples. The cat slept under the table beside the window in the corner of the kitchen. That is a string of 4 prepositional phrases to close off the sentence, and I think that is a hallmark of a weak sentence. Really, the most important part of the sentence is the cat slept. After that, I mean, the location, is the location really important? If it is, can you use 1 prepositional phrase instead of 4? Now let's look at this next example, which is a little bit more complex. In the heart of the city, beneath the glow of street lamps after midnight, James walked toward the bridge over the river with determination in his eyes, despite the rain against his face. Like a drain that gets clogged with hair, this is a sentence which is clogged with prepositional phrases. Just look how many there are. In, of, beneath, of, after, toward, over, with, in, despite, against. I think it's possible to read that sentence or to write that sentence and not realize like, wow, I have way too many prepositional phrases here. But as a general principle, prepositional phrases are some of the weakest parts of your sentence. You want to focus on fun verbs, active verbs. You want to focus on great nouns. You want to focus on balancing out all the pieces of a sentence and not having 90% of your sentence be prepositional phrases. Now, this next point is absolutely key when you're choosing how to write and also how to edit. It is number 4, hit the right tempo with story beats. So we're going to look at 2 examples, a story section with too many beats and then a story section with no beats, and we'll add a few in. First of all, let's look at one with too many beats. So take a look at this section. What the author has done is realize like dialogue alone doesn't really cut it. I need character actions and character movement alongside that dialogue. But I went overboard.
Yes, yeah, I get this one.
You can pause the video if you want a little bit more time to read it. So how would we revise this so the beats aren't sort of overwhelming?
This is like the just have your characters talk, right? Just let the dialogue flow. Don't keep interrupting the dialogue with random shit. Aha.
Overwhelming the dialogue here. Well, let's go through and cut out some beats. There doesn't need to be a beat for every single line of dialogue. Let's cut out the rubbing his fingers together. We'll keep the next 2 beats, but then cut out the 4th one. I knocked on the body twice. Let's cut out the held out a hand for the keys. Let's cut out dug in my pocket for the keys, because that's superfluous. Maybe he's handing the keys to him. Obviously, he dug in his pocket for the keys. And then let's cut out he turned the key in the ignition and the engine started up. This revised version has about half the beats, but what it does is it lets the reader breathe a little bit and also lets the dialogue be the star of this section. Now, you could make the entirely other mistake, like in this next example, and have no beats at all. Here we have what an old writing teacher of mine used to call strip dialogue. It's just dialogue with no dialogue attribution.
Yeah, so it'd be like
no
2 or 3 points in there.
Alone.
Just
and
2 or 3
if you
points.
Go ahead and add in a few story beats, we can actually see these characters. We're actually put into the scene a little bit more. And overall, it just feels like we're witnessing something rather than being on the outside and being like, I can't tell what's going on. You have to determine for yourself whether you tend to add too many story beats or whether you have too few story beats and whether you need to add some in or cut some out. For this next point, I think most writers have only heard one side of the argument, and I want to make sure I give the other side as well, so you're balanced in your writing approach. Number 5 is specificity, more or less. Now, let's look at an example where you don't have enough specificity, first of all. And this is what most writing teachers talk about, like, make your story more specific. You're not specific enough, which is, like, good advice. Let's take a look.
I wonder if writing mostly stripped dialogue first, then going back and adding them would be a smart way to do dialogue. Levi, that's how I do dialogue in my head. Because I'm imagining what the characters are doing, but that's not part of what's, like, important, right? So I set up what are the characters doing in my head, and then I say, okay, while they're doing this, what are the things that they're saying? Like, how would a normal conversation, like, if I was this person, and I was talking to another person, and this was the topic of the conversation, and this is what I was trying to say, how would I say it? And then I literally go through the scene in my head and think that, like, you know, put myself in that position. But I'm like 5 lines of small talk, and then I'm like, I either never talk again, or I ramble about some random tangent. Yes, I did that today. True. I always personally think of conversations as a thing someone is doing, like secondarily to whatever else they're doing. I'm definitely in the Too Many Beats group. But it also depends on, are your characters sitting down having a long conversation? Or is it like, character runs over to other character, says, you know, I take that one, you take this one. You know? Or like one character running ahead of that one, like, this one's mine, bitch! I mean, like, with actual people, not just with characters in writing. Oh, that's just your mentality towards conversations and dialogue in general. I see what you mean. Yeah, whereas I'm like, intoxication. I literally get intoxicated by my own voice and my own thoughts and my own talking to the point that I realize that people have already left. Like, I don't know when they left, because I don't see them walking away. I just, like, all of a sudden realize that there's no one there. And I'm like, wait. When did that happen? Fuck.
She picked up something heavy and hit Soren in the face. Okay, how can we make that a little bit more specific? She snatched a tire iron and smashed it against Soren's jaw. So we get more specific with the verbs. Instead of picked up, we get snatched. Instead of a vague term like something heavy, we get an actual tire iron. And then we also get specificity. We go from hit to smash. We go from face in general to jaw. Now, 97% of the time, adding more specificity is gonna improve your story. It's good for the story. I will add one exception though. What if this story is from Soren's point of view, and you know, he's a private eye or something, and he sees this silhouette of a female form before he's knocked unconscious? Okay, well then he doesn't know what hit him, so it needs to be purposefully vague. But once again, that's like 3% of the time. 97% of the time, add more specificity. Now let's look at an example where there is too much specificity, and I think not enough writing teachers focus on this. Like, yes, you can have too much specificity, and it's bad. It's bad for your story. This is actually an example I took from David Michael Kaplan's book, Revision, which is a great book. The author is trying to be specific, but just goes overboard. So you can take a second and pause the video and actually read this for yourself, but I'm just gonna start going through it. I don't think you need that.
The morning sun's silent rays burned Julia's skin as she walked from the grassy open field into the deeply forested woods. She sat down on a gray rock, took off her Cordura nylon backpack, pulled open the sticky Velcro fastener from the side pocket, and took out a plastic bottle of soda water. Her green and gold speckled kerchief felt sticky against her sweaty skin, so she loosened it. Yeah, I could definitely see it's a little overboard.
Phrase silent rays, we could probably cut that out. Fields tend to be open, so I don't think you need the word open. The forested woods, well, woods are naturally forested, so I don't think we need that. A gray rock, well, unless it's a color other than gray, you probably need to mention it. The Cordura nylon, I don't think adds anything. I think, you know, you could just say backpack. You don't need sticky and Velcro. I think fastener probably communicates that perfectly well. You don't need plastic. You don't really need the colors green and gold. And if you have the word sticky, then you don't really need against her sweaty skin. We just assume the skin is sweaty. So you can cut all those out and the paragraph would probably work better. There was too much specificity shoved into that paragraph. But I also think you have two other options. Sometimes when you throw a lot of specificity,
like just writing dialogue and then writing the action and setting and exposition after, I have the easy stuff done. I write the entire scene usually and then write the dialogue. Like, that's what I like to do. That's what I've, like, always done. Is come back and do the dialogue during the editing phase. Have the characters say what needs to be said, and then come back and change that to the subtext of what they're trying to say. So usually dialogue is really weak on the first pass for me, because I'm not focusing on it. If you could probably tell, the entire scenes, all of the scenes that were basically dialogue, were the new scenes that I added when we edited yesterday, because those scenes are basically things that I skipped over because they were dialogue. So we did the structure for them, and then we came back and did the actual dialogue. So that's kind of how I view it in my head.
Into a scene, it's because there's not much going on and you're trying to make it seem more exciting. In that case, why not just skip to the next part of the scene?
Yep.
If there's something special about this handkerchief, for example, like start the scene with her already dealing with it instead of all the lead up. Another thing that you can do is to revise the scene so there's some sort of story tension or plot tension in it. For instance, if someone has followed her there, that adds some story tension if she hears a rustling in the woods. This next point has been unfairly hammered by English teachers worldwide, and I want to rescue it in your mind. It is number 6, sloppy versus beautiful repetition. How many writing teachers have you heard say, like,
yes.
"Oh, don't use that word again"?
Yes. See, I have the problem of repeating the word over and over again, but there are times when it is a necessity to, like, hammer something into someone's brain about something. Especially when I'm trying to do a twist towards that thing. So it's something they pay attention to and think one thing of. So when it changes, they're like, oh shit, that's what I've been looking at the entire time. Muffin, welcome, welcome. How's it going? How is the stream going? I got it going in the background here. Looks like you're still going hard, brother. Hell yeah. Feels good.
Find a synonym. Why? Because repetition is bad. Don't do it. Consult a thesaurus.
Going fine?
Well, I
Perfect.
mean, no, that's not true. Repetition can be fantastic. All you got to do is use repetition well, and you got to use repetition purposefully. So
Yeah.
we're going to look at it.
My lurk is strong today, Sean.
How to improve it so
True.
the repetition is beautiful. For this, we're actually going to look at a book called Rainbow by D.H. Lawrence, and we have a copy of his early draft, and we also have a copy of his revised draft. We're going to see what he did to make the repetition work better. Here's the section. It is about a kiss, and he repeats the phrase "wanted her" 3 times. But you know what? That's kind of ugly repetition. The sentences don't work. There's no musicality to them. There is no rhythm to them. And so the repetition falls flat.
What happened
It
to
almost
the
seems
redeem?
accidental repetition. So what did good old D?
Redeem? You mean the store? Wait, what? Is it broken? Does it look like this to you guys
Do not
too?
redeem.
Do not redeem. Does it look like this to you guys too? I cannot tell. This is what I get. I cannot do anything. I do not know. Or he redeemed it through Twitch and I don't have the alert set up, so it doesn't work. Now the wellness check using the channel points, it doesn't come up on our chat. It is a no. It is a no redeem. Yeah, it doesn't show up for anything. It just I don't have the alert set up. Like, I don't have an alert box in OBS that connects to it because I haven't set it up yet. I only use that command to remove those points. Yeah, that's why I set it up for him. I set that up specifically for Sean to use.
E.H. Lawrence do? Why, he revised it. And what he did is, instead of taking out the repetition, which is the instinct of a lot of writers, he actually doubled down. He's like, I'm gonna add a lot more repetition. In this version, he repeats the word kiss, and he actually repeats it 4 times inside 3 sentences. And then soon after that, he repeats the phrase wanted her twice. If you read these 2 sections out loud, the first one is clearly inferior, and this one, oh, it's just music to the soul. It trips off the tongue. It's beautiful on the page, and it's beautiful when you speak it out loud. If you have repetition in your sentences, your first impulse...
No, it's 10,000 points for... Oh, I don't even think I have enough. Hold on. Hold on. Do I have enough? I do. This one's 10,000.
Do not drink water. Do not leave your seat. Do not move your feet. Do not stretch. Do not go to the bathroom. Have another toke.
It's one thing with streaming, Muffin. There's stream elements. There's Botrix. There's OBS. There's Twitch. Then there's, like, all the other streaming platforms plus OBS extensions. And you gotta have, like, you gotta have one for everything. And I just found out the Twitch channel points aren't connected to the stream elements channel points. So the Twitch channel points don't have an alert set up for them. Because I didn't know it was a thing. I thought that's what I was setting up when I was setting up Stream Elements. But Stream Elements has its own points, just like Botrix has its own points. It's super confusing and annoying. Like, the Botrix bot has the ability to level up, right? Whereas, you can't... That's not a command. It's like, broken. It doesn't work. I don't know why it is what it is.
Should not be, oh, let's cut it out. Let's get some synonyms. Always look for how you can double down, how you can repeat it even more to make it seem to the reader like, oh, this is definitely on purpose. And you know what? It sounds good. Now, this next point happens so often to writers, but it's a really difficult thing to eradicate. It is number 7, unnecessary body language. Take a look at a phrase like, she nodded her head, right? What other body part is she going to nod? You could just cut off the her head. Off with her head. I feel like I'm the queen in Alice in Wonderland. Or he blinked his eyes. What other body part do you blink again? Yeah, let's cut those eyes. She clapped her hands.
Damn, Mayo. Hell yeah.
That would truly
Let's
be
go,
remarkable.
Eggy.
Most of the time.
Get rid of them. Get rid of that boobs. Mayo it up.
His shoulders. I mean, there's no other body parts you shrug. It's just shoulders. So let's cut those shoulders out. I do think there are some other categories as well.
Yeah, slots is another one you can do. You can have slots all.
But stuff like
get rid of all your
she
points.
whispered quietly. I mean, that is what a whisper is. We don't need that quietly. Or this one. This one's really tricky, and I see it really often, is she thought to herself. I mean, if you're thinking, unless it's some sort of weird sci-fi story where other people can hear your thoughts, you're most of the time thinking to yourself. But hey, don't get too down on yourself for making these kind of mistakes. Like, even the best writers out them slip in.
You can do a number like slots 1.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't
or like
stress
1,000.
out about that. Just remember, like, oh, when I go through, when I'm revising, pay close attention, keep an eye out for these type of things where you can cut them. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video that this number 8th point will change how you view the previous 7 we just talked about. And I wasn't lying. It really is a philosophy of how to edit and revise. So let's look at point number 8, pare it down. I had an old writing teacher. He used to have a phrase, and his phrase was, you can't polish sandstone. Sandstone is a very gritty stone, so if you try to polish it, it's not going to get smooth.
Yeah,
all the little bits are just going to roll off, and you're just going to keep on going down and down and down, and it's still going to be gritty. You can't polish it. What he meant by that is that it's useless to revise what you should just cut. In a lot of the examples above, you have to make a decision whether you want to just cut out some of the extra specificity or whether you just need to delete that whole paragraph. A lot of times you have a sentence like, she walked to the door. Well, some of the time you can skip that and just start with her already
Can
in
you
the
polish a
room
turd?
where the action's actually going to happen. Or you have something like, they drove to Scranton. Okay,
I
is there
did.
anything special about the journey? If there's not, then hey, just delete that whole paragraph and start with them already in Scranton doing whatever it is they're doing, like selling paper or something. I remember a Stephen King novel called The Outsider, where one chapter started with a lawyer
G.G. Hunter
shouting
policy.
at cops. That is the very first line of the
Mythbusters
chapter,
tested this.
dialogue. And I thought, what would a
Polished it
writer
off my
might have done
plate.
in a scene like this? They might have shown a lawyer driving to the police station. They might have shown him walking in. They might have shown him doing some chit chat with the police officers outside. And then they would get to the inciting incident of that sharp dialogue between the two of them. Stephen King either cuts all that boring stuff, or he just doesn't write in the first place and just jumps right to the furthest place where he could possibly start that scene. The real work
Lies.
is
That's the one
deciding
thing I
what belongs
don't
in the
like
story
is
and
scat.
what doesn't. Not only on
Like,
a
that's, like,
word-by-word
literally,
basis,
like, one
but
of
on
the
sentence-by-sentence
only things
basis
I
and
don't like.
paragraph-by-paragraph basis, and even
That's too
on a
far for
chapter-by-chapter
me.
basis. After you make the
Get an
big
enema.
decisions about what belongs in the book and what doesn't, then you can start making the more micro decisions on a sentence-by-sentence level, figuring out how to improve sentences word by word, phrase by phrase. Hey, check out that sentence course or subscribe to all my courses with Book Fox Academy. And if you
Hell yeah. All right, so we found another channel we can do. Where is the other video here?